That sounds good. Thank you, Olivia. So anyway, thank you very much, Olivia and Zlatko and Paul for having me and for this series. It's a very important one. I think I've been following and learning a lot. And thank you everybody for joining us from across the world, wherever you are. It's really, really a pleasure to be with you today. I guess you can go to the next slide, Olivia. I guess today we wanted to just do it differently. I'm told we wanted to show and share about the community development efforts in quantum tech, and that is what brings me here. And perhaps to start with, I just want to outline how this presentation is structured. I'm going to give you a bit of an insight into my personal journey in quantum. Then I will show you or try to demonstrate how open source has been an enabler on that journey. And then I will finish up this session with a discussion on how we have been building a global quantum tech community. So perhaps to start this quantum journey, let me share a bit about where this journey begins. So I went to high school and wanted to do commercials. But when I arrived, I saw that it seemed the smartest guys were going for sciences, and I felt challenged. So I decided to do science in high school, but it wasn't the first time in Zimbabwe where the curriculum was introducing computer science. So it was that rare opportunity of learning how to play with these devices that were disrupting our environment. But back then, computers were not very common, especially this end of the world. And what we had was dial-up internet. That is what I still remember. And it used to be so gratifying or so fulfilling when you would wait for the dialing tone and you begin to see, the red colors for Gmail coming on. So it really, really was special, and I liked that a lot. But however, what caught my attention was I could do physics and computer science, which was very special to me. So I ended up taking 4 subjects at high school. You can show the next slide, Olivia. I ended up taking computer science and physics. The combination you can see there, that's me in high school, and I haven't changed much anyway. So it was an interesting opportunity for me, and I think it has defined my quantum journey. And we were going to connect the dots going backwards, and we'll see how this comes up. So I happened to finish successfully my A-level studies and went to university. I applied to do a degree in computer science, but unfortunately, I wasn't offered a place to study computer science. I was offered a place to study physics. I didn't apply for physics. But when I arrived at university, I had an idea that I could approach the admin and change my program. But for some reason, I decided not to. So I stayed with physics. I hustled with it. It wasn't easy. And usually physics would start with a large group initially. Then after the first semester, that group would have been, reduced to half its size. But I liked the fact that it was challenging, and I thought I could try it out and last as well. So, cut a long story short, went into physics, eventually graduated, and went into industry to work using. I decided to concentrate on instrumentation and control, which was the use of computers in industry. Then after that phase, I went into teaching to just to simplify how physics was being taught in schools. I felt there was that gap. And fast forward, I realized that I had to leave Zimbabwe, go outside, expose myself, and I went to South Africa. When I joined the physics department at WITS, there were a lot of new things that were being considered in the department, especially by the principal investigators, just to, you know, um, take on new directions. So I was fortunate that I joined the nanoscale transfer Transport Physics Lab at WITS. And this is a lab where, which is mainly focused on nanotechnology, diamond-based. The person was selected to take that direction. There wasn't a lot of work in this space, especially in South Africa, or that I was aware of. And I had to learn a lot of new things. But remember, I've always been open to challenges starting from high school, so it wasn't anything new to me. I'm used to get into new fields and just struggling along and finding my way around things. So what fascinated me the most was it was an opportunity to learn something new, and as well as take on something that was a big challenge. I didn't imagine that I could do that from Africa. First of all, the facilities the facilities that you require to do this kind of work are usually expensive and take a lot of work to put into place. And at some point, I thought I was just joining a field which was going to lead me to a dead end. I didn't think I was going to be able to contribute significantly to this field from Africa. So perhaps in my thinking, it was perhaps I'll get a good start. If I'm successful, perhaps I will have to apply outside Africa so that I get opportunities to further my studies in this field and to really understand things. Luckily, in 2016, IBM had made available a quantum computer on the cloud. So when I joined the nanoscale transport physics lab, we started toying around with the idea of simulating some quantum hardware. We heard a lot about transmons, fluxmons, flux qubits, phase qubits, you name it. And we thought we had, since we were focusing more on diamonds, and we were looking mainly on boron-doped diamond, heavily boron-doped diamond, and NV centers in diamond. So there was this idea that we could, use the best characteristics of spin-based hardware and combine that with some superconducting hardware and benefit from the best of both worlds. So we began to tinker with an idea of a hybrid quantum computer, and we could simulate it. We realized. So I took up that challenge, began to play around with the IBM Q platform to learn how I had to do things. And mind you, during that time, I wasn't aware of a community. Personally, if ever there was a community, I wasn't aware of it. So this is trial and error work that I did alone. You just go there, sit, try to figure things out, read a lot of papers on your own, get confused, come back, there's discussions with others in the team and find a way forward. So interestingly, just to fast forward this whole story, interestingly, as I was researching, I began to realize that there was a lot of impact. And since I had done computer science and was interested in technology, I had followed presentations by Steve Jobs, by Bill Gates as they were building up their products and services. I realized that we had an opportunity of participating in another revolution. And I could relate with a lot of things that had to happen if ever quantum technology was going to end up, creating meaningful impact and being applied to solve problems. So it was like a moment, where I got excited. Was like, what? So we've got this opportunity to contribute. If ever I'm able to keep on working at this and get it right, then I've got an opportunity of at least contributing to how a next revolution in technology, which is to me a natural evolution, that we were going to get to where quantum computing has to work and has to be applied. So I got fascinated, and I decided that no, I think I'm going to give this my best shot and use all the support and the resources that I have access to try my best. But there wasn't a community, there wasn't support. The support was not as solid as it seems to be getting now. But through that perseverance and through the support that I could get and the access to a quantum computer on the cloud and watching YouTube videos and reaching out to people who were within the local community, eventually I was able to even produce a publication, which is what you see there at the bottom of the experimental simulation of a hybrid quantum system. And I was, I was surprised that we could do work on a publication that other people were going to read, and found it made sense, and it was it was reviewed positively and ended up having a publication on AIP. So I also have shared there where we have got the preparation of an exciton condensate. It is a paper that was published by guys at by Leanne, Serge, and guys at University of Chicago, which I think has been what we were trying to do. I think they've perfected it. They used the 53 qubit IBM quantum device to simulate some quantum material, and this is where we were going with the work that we were doing. But I'm only realizing it now in retrospect. And we have continued to look at diamond as something that we can use for quantum hardware. So I was involved in the characterization of heavily boron doped diamond thin films, which I have produced another conference proceeding that was shared last year on superconducting diamond as a platform for quantum technologies. So it's really been an amazing journey. So I was just giving you this background to show you the work that I've been involved in, the work that I've also participated on, and what we have done, and the publications we've released, just from the mere fact that we were able to think that we could do it, and also the access we had of devices on the cloud, which we could never have been able to do if ever there wasn't those privileges, or there wasn't that open access. Next slide, Olivia. So this is just a summary of my journey, and I'm just going to take you quickly through it. I think I've said a lot of the things as I was giving you this foundation. So when I arrived at WITS, that was in 2017. So I thought I would share a picture of sunny WITS, and I miss it now that I'm back in Zimbabwe. It's a beautiful place, and that community has been very kind to me. That is me there on a multi-chamber deposition instrument that was made specifically for our lab. So that was custom made for us. So it has many chambers. So we're using it to synthesize a diamond. I'm sure now I left when this was still being optimized, and there were a few touch-ups to do. But I worked on optimizing it to an extent. Though I didn't manage to take it full course and synthesize something myself. But it was a good exposure and good experience to play around with that instrument. What I specifically worked on was to characterize the heavily boron doped diamond thin films, and they contribute. My work contributed a lot on the other paper that we saw there on superconducting quantum devices and the direction the lab is taking now. However, so because since I was using the IBM Q experience and I had an account there, I began to get emails on the plans that IBM was making and when they were building the community. So I remember receiving an email to apply to do to be a QSKIT advocate, and it was a moment that excited me a lot. But I didn't know if I could participate in that challenge and really make sense out of it, and pass and be selected as a QSKIT advocate. But I thought I could try it. There was no harm in trying. After I'd taught myself a lot on the platform, so I was still going to do the same. So I joined that challenge and tried the problems and the challenges that we were given. Just gave it my best shot. That's all that I did. I'm trying to emphasize this whole individual effort to show you the importance of a community, as we're going to see as we go. So it was kind of lonely because you don't have people you can ask that you're getting stuck here, but we were just asking each other. It was just coming up as a small community, and I'm happy to say I managed to be successful. That was the first cohort of advocates. managed to be successful. That was in 2019. And soon after that, IBM organized through their collaboration with Arua, Wits, and Chimolokong in Johannesburg. They organized the Quantum Summer School, and I couldn't miss that one because it was now going to be an opportunity for me to see many faces behind this whole field, and many also meet other people who were interested in moving this field forward. So I joined the summer school. I was actually awarded as sponsorship to attend. I came through, and that's where we met people from IBM who were working on this, and other people in industry who were interested in quantum computing as well. And we began to have conversations. That's when it started to get real for me to say, okay, there's actually a community, there's actually an industry that is being built here. There's an industry that is taking shape, and we have that opportunity to contribute and exchange ideas and say, this is what can happen. But I wasn't confident I could make any contributions or have any discussions that were meaningful. But when I began talking to the researchers and other people who were part of the summer school, then we realized that actually the work that we were doing in NV centers in Diamond was exciting, and other people were interested in it. They were also thinking it's something important for the field to move forward. And it was like, okay, we were just doing it to get qualifications, to finish your degree programs. I didn't know that it's work that I can keep on contributing to. It's important work for other people as well. So it solidified my resolve. It made me feel there was something really important that was coming up. So after the summer school, we went for a hackathon. And in that hackathon, we had that opportunity of extending some of the work that I had done during MSc to the Qiskit platform. So we were more of building a backend, which is an NV center backend. As you would know, IBM quantum hardware is focused on superconducting transmon qubits. So we had to bring in a different hardware, and it is because Qiskit we had been structured or is structured to communicate to different hardware platforms. And I think we have seen hardware from AQT, from Austria coming on board as well. And there's that thinking that people should be able to use Qiskit to interface with the different types of hardware. It could be for research, it could be as a provider of hardware, whichever way somebody wants to set it up. So we worked on that during the hackathon. Really interesting project, but believe you me, I didn't even have an idea of where we were going and what we needed to do. But through working with amazing people, we managed to frame our thoughts and to give them structure, and worked very hard on it. But as usual, I didn't think that it was going to be anything exciting, something that we were going to present something tangible on. It was just more of, okay, let's give it our best, let's get it on. And I'm happy. When we started, we didn't even have enough members to start a team. We eventually got that right, and we get that. You can see me there with Solomon, with David, with Eba, with Brian. Really, we learned a lot from these guys, and we didn't exchange ideas and say how can we build the perfect backend. It was really interesting. So for this effort, we came second place at hackathon, and it was a life-changing moment because it validated a lot of things about the work that we were doing, about how when people come together, how they can contribute to the community, what could happen from Africa, and what happens when people collaborate. So it just brought a lot of things, full circle for me. And ever since then, I just shared the top picture there that I've gone to attend a lot of events. I've been invited to come and help. I've been able to contribute, and I've grown to a level where I'm at least, making a small contribution in the community, which other people are recognizing and find you useful, and I'm really grateful. We can have the next slide, Olivia. So these are just the other contributions that I've done, just taking initiative, never saying no. So it is an attribute that I got from, personal development, to say you never say no, just plunge in and try it out. So if you reflect on the story that I'm telling here, you realize that every other time I made the decision, it wasn't so clear where I was going to go next, but I was plunging in. I was giving it my best shot. I was trying it out. I was simply saying, okay, this is what we have in front of us. Let's do it. Let's see where it takes us. And I've been invited to participate at the IBM Quantum Summit last year, building a community with open source. I've contributed on GitHub to try and improve the code base in a small way. I've attended the Qiskit virtual global hackathon as a judge. It's been interesting. So I've taken different roles in the ecosystem, and I've learned a lot. Worked with some amazing people I never thought I could, work with, and we still do that. I think obviously COVID-19 accelerated some of these efforts that have made us more connected. But all the same, it's been a pleasure. There were a lot of events that were lined up to happen physically, which I was already invited to attend anyway. So I guess it would have been the same story, but perhaps not at the same scale like we have seen with the work from home and everybody coming online. Next slide, Olivia. So this has taken me to, because of this whole journey that I've traveled myself, from research to getting a community that has supported my growth, I began to realize that there were many other people, especially young people. Remember, I told you I did teaching. So when I was a teacher, I had an opportunity to interface with young people, and I think I understand them to some extent in terms of the kind of aspirations they have, the kind of dreams they have. They are, they are optimized to take these plunges much more than I was when I went further with education. So I always imagine to say, I want these opportunities for them as well, because they can take maximum advantage of these opportunities much better than I'll ever do. But when I look at it, I was like, okay, where do they start? Yes, we are here in Africa, and do they need to move from Africa in order to contribute to this field? No, they don't. Now we have got open access resources, hardware, and software platforms and communities. So these people have to realize these opportunities in front of them, and I have to help them take advantage of those. So how could I do that? And this is when this whole idea of, okay, I've been supported by a community myself. I've loved what I've seen and the kind of support I got from the community. So I guess the best thing that I can do is to also open these opportunities for other people. And also I was getting questions to say from other people to say, okay, so how do we also make it? I'm looking for these opportunities for further education. I'm looking for these opportunities to learn. Where do I start? And how do I get to where you are as well? So I couldn't answer those questions alone. I couldn't provide all the resources that are required alone. And the only way to do it would be to build a community. So I came to say, okay, I went online, did a lot of, I was sharing a lot on LinkedIn and on various channels, on various channels, and I had to, I began to come across different people. So I came across Andre. Andre was building a community. He was thinking of building a community to support the quantum tech ecosystem. And I was also at that time receiving a lot of questions from my friends in Africa who were looking for opportunities to grow. Remember, the world has been locked down and people were just wondering to say, so what do? We can't travel. Even if somebody was looking up to get a scholarship elsewhere, that wasn't coming up to be. So people were now looking to say, how do we contribute? And how do we contribute, and how do we also contribute to this to this space? So this is where I joined OneQuantum. And OneQuantum is a global community for quantum tech leaders. And when we say leaders, everybody is a leader in their own right. So we had to take it down to say a leader is everybody who is active and interested in quantum tech. And we want these people to get a platform where they can share ideas freely, where they can collaborate, where they can get support. It could be to acquire skills, it could be for education, it could be resources, it could be a business that needs to scale, it could be somebody who is thinking of starting up some offshoot from academia, wants to get into industry, they want to build a solution, they want to understand how to frame that, how to get funding, how to have conversations with regulators, how to handle issues of intellectual property. So Andre and Dennis had also, from where they are coming from, had received a lot of these requests as well, and were putting resources in place to say this is how we can support. I didn't anticipate that there was such a huge opportunity for people to come together and to begin to move the field forward. So I joined OneQuantum, and I'm now a senior manager there. And we began to just put these things together. So that was in the last half of 2020. And because I'm from Africa and I'm based in Africa, and I receive a lot of those questions that I'm talking about from Africa, I also thought I could begin to build a community within the OneQuantum framework. We had opportunities to build chapters, so I could also build a community specifically for Africa. So that's when we started OneQuantum Africa, and I was just wondering how it was going to shape up. Believe you me, it's not like we were very sure of how it was going to unfold, but we just thought the community was going to find it useful. They were also going to think it was important and effort. So we started OneQuantum Africa, and I became a president for OneQuantum Africa, and I began to run with that idea, to reach out to my friends, the bigger community, to say, this is what I think we can do. We saw IBM coming to Africa and supporting us with the hackathon and the summer school, but we have to build on that, and we have to keep this ball rolling. We have to come closer and make sure that we no longer need anybody else to come and bring us together and tell us what to do next. We already have a solid foundation that we have seen, so let's take advantage of it and let's keep these conversations going. Let's collaborate amongst ourselves. Let's have a conversation. So we have seen that community growing up, growing very fast, and also attracting even people from across the globe who are interested in knowing what's happening in Africa, who also want to contribute and just support how this whole ecosystem is unfolding. And we have had beautiful discussions there, and it was also an opportunity for people from Africa to showcase their work, far from the conferences where you may be overshadowed by other people at big conferences. So we needed a small space, which was only for us, where we could share about our work, where we could share about people who are interested in quantum in Africa. They could come and tell us what they're working on, their achievements. We can celebrate with them, can collaborate and support their efforts. We can know their limitations and constraints. We can, have a conversation about what do we need to do to make things work. What kind of resources do we need? How do we get them in place? Sometimes you may not even need so much of resource. You need to just get started. And so we have invited even experts in the continent to come and help to shape that discussion, to tell us about what they have done in the trenches, building a foundation for quantum, because it has already been there in the continent. We are only building on top of it and improving it and expanding it and extending it as well. So it has been a platform where people come and share and also get to help the bigger community to understand where we can play as Africans and how we can play. And even have conversations beyond the conferences, beyond the research labs and any other places where people meet. we can now have these conversations on our community platforms, and we even take them beyond there, because when conversations start on the platform, they don't end there. We take them behind the scenes, and we begin working on things that are of common interest amongst us, individually as well as bilaterally as countries, and you name it. And you can see there, those are some of the efforts, and I've also been invited to share across the continent. Attended Alexandra Quantum Winter School in Egypt. Data to breakfast at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. We have had guys from across Africa, really, and even beyond, from the US, from Turkey, coming on our events, and we have had beautiful conversations. Next slide, Olivia. So, just a small takeaway from Andre here, where he says, OneQuantum is our effort to provide a stage, voice, and safe space for all active and interested in quantum tech globally, so that we build an industry where we will be successful, fair, and profitable. So this has been the idea, and what success means to each and every one of us is different, but it is, we have built a platform, we think, and we still want to keep on improving it, make it work for everyone. We don't have all the answers, but I think we have managed to build a platform where people can come and beyond any other interests, they can come and feel free to collaborate, to exchange ideas, to talk about what they are learning, to also find out what other people are learning, and they have access to resources, they have access to networks, they have access to skills, and in some cases, like for the summits that we have been running, we have access to talent as well. Next slide, Olivia. So you realize you can bring on the next slide. Some of the things I've already covered them in passing as I looked at the other slides. So thank you. You can just move to the next one. So I'm going to share about what we have learned just quickly. Next slide, Olivia. I'll share what we have learned quickly. You know, when we started, we had an idea of why we were building OneQuantum. And all the other chapters that I've talked about, like the Women in Quantum chapter that some of you may be aware of, the Quantum chapter in Africa, like what I've already mentioned. But I thought I could share with you some of the questions that have been, urging us on. There are people who are interested in quantum tech and sometimes don't even know where to start. And there are people who sometimes, for example, I'll give an example, try to talk about perhaps two circumstances that come quickly to mind. There's a guy by the name of Raphael. Raphael was attending an event on Clubhouse, and he realized that he was the only African. And he had to ask his colleagues there to say, what's happening in quantum in Africa, if there's anything. So luckily, in that group, somebody knew about our work at OneQuantum Africa, because we tried to make a bit of noise using our social media channels as we promote our events and invite people to come and share and support our efforts. So I think it was Nick Farina who shared information about us, and Raphael ended up attending our meeting. That was about a week ago, and he came through for our meetings. We also happened to connect on Twitter, and he came to the meeting and he said, "Oh, I was asking about a quantum community in Africa because I went to study in Russia, and I am studying something to do with quantum machine learning. And I feel so lonely. I'm just alone. So I decided to start a group in Ghana. He comes from Ghana. He started a group in Ghana, but he's the one who has to lead it, and he wasn't getting as much support as he thought, because of quantum is scary sometimes, and people get scared and shrink back. So he was saying every other time that I have this conversation, people shrink back, and I wonder how to approach this. So when he came on the platform, he found the community, and we began to also tell him about our experiences, some similar, and how we have how we had overcome the barriers that he was coming across. And to this day, we were having a conversation on how to build the community in Africa and how we can help him to expand his efforts in Ghana and even support his process of learning in Russia as well. So that would be one case. Then we had the case of a student who is in university here in Zimbabwe who is doing IT. And she just felt quantum was the right thing for her because of quantum machine learning. She's very interested in that. So we needed resources to support that. And because I'm a Qiskit advocate, and Qiskit has done very well in terms of community work and bringing people together, and the support people find there. So it's been, I think I want to say it because I've even heard it from some of my friends who are not advocates, who are not even part of the community, but however, who happened to have joined it just to see what's happened, what happens there, to say it is really, really a very good community. It is warm, people are welcoming, you ask a question, within usually at most an hour, somebody would have responded. In some groups, you can ask questions and you can go on end without receiving a response. So I would want to think there are many other people who see things the same way that I do. And so it's easy when you've got such platforms to refer beginners because you don't always have all the answers and introduce people to new technology. So you want to find resources. You want to say, okay, today you can go and create an account and log in and share the quantum device. Today you can go on Qiskit Tech, or you can go on this channel or on this platform, and you can begin to join the people who are working and going in the same direction. You can support the growth. So that has been very important to me as a community builder, because it has been easy to talk to people and find resources that can support them. And like you can see from that slide, there are a lot of questions that people ask each and every day. And it's so easy to answer because I don't have all the answers, but I can refer them to the next guy. I can always refer them to the platform. And depending on which platform is optimized for what they're asking. And we give them opportunities to go to different platforms altogether. It's not only music that we expose people to, we expose them to all the different platforms that are available. Some are right now doing joining the hackathon with QHack at Xanadu, and trying it out on Pennylen and using PyTorch, Amazon platforms, Microsoft Azure, you name it. So we have this freedom to refer people to what we think are the best platforms. So this is why a community like ours, I feel, is very important, because it allows us to do this gracefully, because we are only looking at the best resources that are available, and we recommend those for our members and for the community. And we are always willing to hear from anyone who has think they found a platform that works for them, to also bring it forward so that other people have an opportunity to learn as well. Next slide, Olivia. So our work, besides the questions that we get, is also supported, or we are eager to make a difference because of some of this information that we come across. Like you had in the introduction, I also happen to work at Interference Advisors, and we collect data and do advisory in the quantum tech space. So it gives us an opportunity of seeing the ecosystem at a high level and look at some of these things that may not be apparent. So as you see this slide, it shows an underrepresentation of women and African Americans. And we feel that communities, especially for quantum, this time around, we have to do it right, and we have that opportunity. It has happened with the past technological revolution, and we can't let it persist. So we have to deal with it. We have to come together and say, how do we deal with it? We are not saying that everybody, even those who are not going to have anything to contribute, should simply be given, the platform to ride on. No, but we are saying nobody should be limited in terms of how they can contribute to shape this field. If somebody wants to contribute to quantum tech, let them do it regardless of who they are and where they are located. So I've been able to contribute to quantum from Zimbabwe, and somebody from the Gambia should be able to do the same if they're interested, and if there's anything they want to bring to the community. And the community should have that opportunity to make decisions and say, I think this works for us, I think this doesn't work. And all this whole conversation can only happen in an open, free community which does not have any vested interest. And that is what we think we are putting in place. And we are always iterating very fast and optimizing to make sure that the community works for everyone. You can bring the next slide, Olivia. So this is what we see, the opportunity for women. You can bring the next slide. So this is what we see as an opportunity for women. There are a lot of women, and I think Denise has been telling this story every now and then to say there are a lot of women who were reaching out to ask about how they can build a career in quantum, where are the opportunities, how can they take advantage of those opportunities. And I've studied with colleagues, female colleagues myself, and I understand. I've had this conversation as well with them to say, okay, we feel that this is a male-dominated environment, and we don't feel comfortable. We feel there are limitations somehow, but I guess then they need encouragement and they need to be supported so that they also contribute. And there's a lot of beautiful work that Denise has been doing in that right as well. You can bring on the next slide. So briefly, those are the Women in Quantum KPIs. So the Women in Quantum chapter has done very well. They are now on their 4th summit, which is happening in March, and you can register and register following the link at the bottom there. One other interesting thing about the summit that is coming this time around is that it is sponsored by startups. I think you see Zapata there and Zurich Instruments. Those are the main sponsors for the event, and they're being supported by the sponsors that are lined up at the bottom, including Honeywell and Strangeworks, DWF, Quantum Brilliance, you name it. So we have seen a lot of startups coming to support women in quantum, and I think it's because they see the value that is being created and the opportunities that communities present, even to startups as well, in terms of accessing talent and learning about the conversations that are happening and how they can take advantage of the opportunities that arise. And for this time around, there is going to be a career fair and a quantum machine learning track. And for the career fair, if you're interested, what is happening here is people are bringing in their CVs. The companies are going to have a look at them. They're also going to host some sessions where they talk about their cultures and open opportunities. And you can have a conversation with them. And your CV has got a chance of being reviewed by these companies, and you can send it through to brook@onequantum.org, and we'll throw it in the basket, and it will be reviewed. So we're creating this opportunity and opening it up for all women in quantum across the world, and we have reached almost 5 continents with past events, and a lot of this effort, I think most of you may have noticed it. You can bring the next slide. Thank you. So we have got a startup chapter, and so I've learned a lot being part of the startup chapter. So you realize that when people start companies, there is a lot that they need to learn, and new lessons, acquire new knowledge, some new skills, and the startup chapter that we run at OneQuantum has been a very important source of support for the startups who are members. And these are the typical meetings and conversations that we have to learn about raising capital, scaling, go-to-market strategies, and many other things. You can bring on the next slide. I'm just trying to catch up with time so that I've mentioned a lot of the things. Let me just quickly go through Africa. So Africa, a solid foundation already exists in Africa to build on. This is what I've learned being a leader for OneQuantum Africa, working with the community. So IBM has done a very important job for us. And I think generally for the whole ecosystem. If they didn't make the device available on the cloud in 2016 and also envisage that we were going to need a community, and a lot of the steps that they've taken over the years, And if I'm not going to credit them with that, it would be insincere, because the results are there for all of us to see. But it's up to us now to build on that effort to, to take this conversation forward and keep on expanding opportunities for each and everyone who is interested and active to participate. In Africa, the foundation has been laid. There already had been meetings on quantum that has been happening over the years, and we are just building on that and bringing the community closer and building on their successes to say, where do we go from here? Where do we collaborate? Where are the gaps, and how do we cover them? And OneQuantum Africa allows different stakeholders to now come to have this conversation, from business, from regulators, policymakers, from academia, from investors, to say where are the missing ingredients and what is the missing link. So you can bring on the next slide. Thank you. So this is the conversation that we are having, and it's not like it's anything new. There are success stories to build upon, and I just had to pick a few. I've missed a lot of information about what has happened in Africa, but there is a lot of beautiful work that has already been done to advance science and technology in the continent, and the models are there on how this work can be, scaled. So quantum tech can take the same route. There are a lot of transferable lessons from a lot of these initiatives that I have outlined here. To build on. And just quickly, I'll talk about the Africa Laser Center, which has established centers of excellence in photonics and optics. And all these have been networked across the continent to come together and to begin building solutions and have an impact in the continent. There are also, for example, big projects like the Square Kilometer Array telescope, which is one of the largest array of telescopes that are being put in the continent. And also, there are linkages there with quantum tech, and there are already conversations happening on how to deal with a lot of data that is going to be collected, and also aspects of gravitational waves, of sensing, also being considered. And I'm sure Arua and QSKIT there, Arua and IBM coming together to find a framework under which universities in Africa and those who are eager in Africa can access quantum devices. Because remember, on the free open platform, there are limitations in terms of the number of devices that we can access, and the quality of devices as well sometimes. So under that Arua IBM key initiative, you can apply to have access to some of the devices that are special, that have got different capabilities, and you can use them to test solutions for big problems that we have in Africa, a lot of them after all, that we have to solve them ourselves. And this is the reason why we need to participate and take active interest, because those problems are our problems. We have to solve them ourselves because we understand them, and we understand the culture, we understand where the solutions are going to sit and how they are going to create impact. Next slide. So given that whole successful foundation that we have there, I have the next slide, Olivia, sorry. Given that whole strong foundation to build upon, there shouldn't be a limit in terms of where we can go and where we can take this technology. Quickly, I think those are KPIs for OneQuantum Africa. We've got more than 300 members and counting. We have hosted 24 highly engaged weekly meetings so far ever since we started, and they've been fun and memorable. We've exchanged a lot of beautiful moments and started a lot of relationships that have spilled beyond the community. There are people that we have reunited on the platforms who have met each other sometime in industry, but came again and met on our platforms. And that is what we want to do, to connect people, and to, especially people who are interested in solving problems that are relevant for us here. We already have up to 40 people who are upskilling and gaining education through the different platforms. It could be the coding school, where IBM has been doing good work to support that as well. It could be QWorld, it could be the Quantum Open Software Foundation, it could be on QSKIT, it could be on to go for QHack, and all those opportunities to learn and build networks and acquire new skills. And we have also had global leaders, experts coming on our meetings to share their expertise and help us to frame this whole field, unpack some complicated aspects and share knowledge on how they think we can also take advantage of this revolution and how we can move forward as a continent. Next slide, Olivia. So yeah, you can learn more about our work using the following links. You can get through to me at farai@strapadas.com. The Women in Quantum Summit, I've already shared about it. It's going to be exciting. It is an opportunity. It is mainly now focusing on supporting those who are in their early careers or are looking to change careers and join quantum. You can subscribe to our newsletters there to keep to keep up to date with what we're thinking and working on and what we're learning as well. And you can enjoy some free data at qisdata.com, which is where the other charts about data on the ecosystem are coming from. If ever you need anything, let us know. We can always put that up for you. We can find a way to make it happen. Next slide, Olivia. So yeah, that takes me to the end of the story. So perhaps as I conclude, I think Africa has got the greatest opportunity to do things this time around better in terms of technology. We don't have to keep letting the gaps widen in terms of adopting new technology. So yes, sometimes we get questions to say, but we haven't mastered the other aspects of technology. Why are you jumping on quantum? It's high tech, it's bleeding edge. But then I say, why do we have to keep on digging? The first thing that you do when in a hole, you stop digging. So we have to cover that gap, and we have that opportunity. And open source, open access, these community initiatives that are coming up, including the brilliant work that has been done by the guys at Strange Works to bring a big platform of resources under one umbrella. All those are efforts that I think are very important for the community, are very important for everybody who is active and interested to learn about quantum tech. It removes the barriers in terms of access to hardware, in terms of access to knowledge, access to skills, getting education, geographical barriers to say where to contribute from, all those things. I think we can deal with them. We can enrich the ecosystem by bringing different perspectives and bringing different cultures, making it more diverse, allowing people to contribute from wherever they are. Because if we build solutions in Africa, it doesn't end here. COVID-19 has shown us that we are more connected than we think. And it's high time we realize that and work together and support each other's efforts and build this time around a technology ecosystem that works for everyone and allows all of us to be successful, to be profitable, to be fair, and to succeed faster. So thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure, and yes, I can answer some questions, hear ideas from you and suggestions and your comments. Always open to hear your ideas and what people think we can do to make things work better for everyone.
Thanks so much, Farai. I think, I'm not alone here in saying this was a really important talk and it's very inspiring. And I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat too, saying this is such a powerful story and they're really inspired by your ability to spread what you've learned and your knowledge about quantum computing to all of these different places in the world where we wouldn't normally see that. So I just want to say thank you again. And obviously, I think IBM and myself personally think this community initiative is really, really important. So one question that we had come up a couple times is, what do you think is like the best way for a true beginner to get started in this field? I know you list a couple resources, but if you had to pick just one or two that you think a true novice might be most interested in, what would you suggest?
Oh, beautiful question. And perhaps the best that I can say is I can use my own story, and maybe that could work for somebody. So for me, what has worked the best and what I still recommend to be the best way forward at the moment for a true beginner is The first thing is you have to identify somebody you think is doing it in a way that is relatable. So it could be somebody you pick on social media who's talking about quantum whom you think is accessible, or to come for a community. It could be a leader of a community like myself, or some Qiskit advocates and other different versions of advocates that we have in the ecosystem. I think it's always important to have a conversation with somebody in the field as a starting point. Then the next thing, those people are usually going to direct you to your first resource, depending on your level of where you are and where you want to go. And I think there are a lot of unofficial mentors. I also didn't mention that. So I've also had a lot of unofficial mentors. It could be on Qiskit as an advocate. It could be online, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I've seen that the quantum community is very open to a conversation, whoever they are, especially in my case. And I've seen other people that I've been working with also saying the same too. So it's about finding a mentor and talking to them about what you want to work on. Then they will identify resources. But the resource that I think has been the best for me personally has been the Qiskit textbook, together with the going on Qiskit Slack, because the community there is full of also beginners, and people are quick to share resources for beginners and also even support them when they come with whatever question. So there are no right and wrong questions. It's a community that I've seen people asking, the stupidest of questions, the basic of questions, and getting responses. So I think the Qiskit test, we're having a mentor or a community that where there's somebody you can talk to, going to for the Qiskit textbook to just peruse through and see how things are outlined, going on Qiskit Slack and just throwing yourself in there and pick people you think you can just post on the different channels. Then open an account, use a quantum computer available for free on the cloud, because I think having a free access to a device is the best that could ever happen. So the only free platform that I know you can go to and open and get an account to run is on IBM Quantum Experience. So I think those could be the best, and that is what I've been recommending for people that I always work with, and I've seen it working for them. The other thing, perhaps quickly, will be to join QWorld and take a diploma with QWorld. I think those guys are doing something fantastic in education. Or apply for the coding school if ever applications are open. I think it has also been something optimized for beginners. So I think those are going to be resources in no particular order that I will throw around to anybody who wants to get started.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad to hear that you think the Qiskit textbook is an important source of information. I know we have a lot of community people who have worked really, really hard on it. One last question I wanted to ask is, before we wrap up, is a lot of people, come to us and they say they have these resources, but they're not sure they have the right background to approach it and get into quantum, but they're really interested in doing so and they really want to get started, but they're a little bit afraid, for a lack of a better word, I think maybe intimidated. What would you recommend, Farai, in terms of overcoming that initial inertia and just jumping into it?
I guess, like everything else that is new, I think it's important for people to appreciate that even classical computing was like quantum initially. It was for initiated people initially. So there's no need to, don't be afraid and run away from quantum. Be afraid and look for help, because like everything else, technology is a very important part of our society now. And I think when I taught physics, I always said to my students, even it's not like you have to be an expert at physics or now this time around at quantum, but you simply want to open your mind to learn new stuff and be an informed citizen in a world that is being fast reshaped by technology. All of us now have not noticed that we can't run away from technology. I'm always laughing when I'm speaking to people are older than me here in Zimbabwe now, because COVID has forced everybody to move online and to use Zoom, use Microsoft Teams. Students are learning from home. You're a parent, you have to tinker with the devices to make sure that they work. You have to monitor your child's work and etc. And you even have to submit something online using an email. So I'm saying being afraid and running away may not be the best way. It's okay. It's normal to get afraid of anything that is new, but it's good to keep an open mind and find support. And it's worthwhile to do it because you are not expected to really master everything, but you are expected at least to just be somebody who's going to be informed, who can, you know, who can be, who can realize in which direction things are moving and in what way quantum may affect you or may impact the world. I think that is very important. So I always think that is the reason why somebody should, of course, be a bit, uncomfortable, but remember that it is normal and face your fears, find help, find support. We all do. I'm not an expert in anything, but when I started quantum, like I said, it was I had to listen to videos by Johnny Martinez on YouTube, etc. But I have to face my fear as well. So we all have to face our fears and get started somewhere and find support for it. Ask questions, find people we can talk to. So yeah, that was something that I would say about it.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I totally agree. No, and I think what you said before is important, that I think we're building a friendly and open community that's really interested in collaboration and answering questions. So I'm happy to see, there are people like you in the field who's pushing this initiative forward, and hopefully it continues and we see this same pattern. So in the sake of time, I just want to wrap up here, but I want to really sincerely thank you again for coming on and for being part of our seminar. And yeah, hopefully we'll have you back and we'll talk more in the future.
My pleasure, Olivia, and my pleasure to everybody who was able to tune in. And thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you again so much. And remember that if you liked what you saw here today, we have these seminars every Friday at noon. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.